My name is Jenna, a 30-year-old mom juggling the wild adventure of raising two spirited toddlers. Planning a family trip with them is less like a vacation and more like preparing for battle: diapers, snacks, toys, outfits, and an arsenal of patience. This time, we were heading to Los Angeles, and I was looking forward to sun-soaked downtime and a special reunion. My sister Lisa hadn't met my youngest yet, and I couldn't wait to share the joy, and occasional chaos, that filled my life. At the airport, my kids' excitement was contagious. Their tiny faces were glued to the windows, watching planes soar into the sky. "Mommy, look, it's flying," my eldest shouted, his hand tugging on mine as I adjusted the diaper bag slung over my aching shoulder. "Yes, sweetheart, we'll be flying soon too," I replied, managing a smile despite the weight I was carrying, both literal and figurative. Jacob, my husband, had gone to get the boarding passes. When he returned, I immediately noticed the uneasy look on his face. "All set?" I asked, brushing a stray hair out of my face. He hesitated. "Yeah, but there's, one thing I need to tell you." The knot in my stomach tightened. "What is it?" "You and the kids are in economy, but I upgraded myself to business class," he said, avoiding my gaze. His words landed like a punch to the gut. "You what?" He shifted awkwardly. "I've been really stressed lately, and I thought having some space to relax would help." "You're leaving me to handle two toddlers alone so you can relax?" My voice cracked as hurt and disbelief surged through me. He mumbled something about it being better this way, but the logic didn't hold up. It wasn't better for everyone, it was just better for him. "Gathering our things," I said with forced cheerfulness. "Come on, kids, let's go find our seats." Jacob trailed behind, his guilt evident, but I was too upset to care. The flight was exactly as exhausting as I'd feared. Between managing a teething 1-year-old and a restless 3-year-old, I was barely holding it together. Every time I imagined Jacob sipping coffee in a plush seat up front, resentment bubbled inside me. "Mommy, why can't I sit with Daddy?" my eldest asked, his innocent question twisting the knife further. "Daddy's sitting in a different section, sweetie," I replied, masking my frustration with a smile. By the time we landed in Los Angeles, I was drained. Jacob caught up to us, his face full of regret. "I'm sorry, Jenna, I thought this would help me manage my anxiety," he said, reaching for the bags. I pulled them away. "Anxiety or not, Jacob, you chose comfort over your family. You left me alone when I needed you," I said, my voice steady but firm. His apologies felt empty as I ushered the kids through the terminal. At Lisa's house, we were met with her warm embrace, a stark contrast to the chill I felt from Jacob's actions. "You look exhausted," Lisa said, her concern evident as she took the bags from my hands. I told her everything about the flight. My voice cracked as I said, "He left us, Lisa. He upgraded himself and left me to struggle with the kids." Her frown deepened. "That doesn't sound like the Jacob I remember. What's going on?" "It's not just the flight," I admitted. "It's been building for a while. I've reached a point where I need to figure out what's best for me and the kids." Lisa nodded silently, her support all the reassurance I needed. The following days passed in a blur of laughter and reflection. My kids played in Lisa's sunlit garden, their joy a sharp contrast to the tension I'd been living with. While they napped, I confided in Lisa and replayed moments from my marriage, trying to piece together what had gone wrong. One evening, as we sat on her porch with the California breeze brushing past, I turned to Lisa. "Remember last Christmas?" I stirred my tea, the spoon clinking softly against the cup. "Jacob went on that golf trip with his friends, remember? Right in the middle of our family plans. It's always been about what he needs," I said, my frustration spilling out like steam from the cup. Lisa leaned back, her eyes filled with concern and frustration mirroring my own. "Jenna, this has been happening for too long. Maybe it's time to think about what you need for a change." Her words lingered long after our conversation ended, their weight keeping me awake that night. By morning, I knew I couldn't keep living this way. Taking a deep breath, I dialed the number Lisa had given me for a counselor. The sessions were like untangling a tightly wound knot, slow, methodical, and often painful. Each conversation peeled back layers of compromises I hadn't even realized I was making. "You've given so much of yourself to keep the peace, Jenna," the counselor said one afternoon, her voice calm yet probing. "But what about your peace, your needs? I hesitated, the question hitting too close to home. I guess I've always put Jacob first, his needs, his schedule, his comfort, but I'm tired of being invisible in my own life. The realization hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Over time, I began to see things clearly. It wasn't just about Jacob upgrading his seat on that flight. It was a pattern, a lifetime of moments where I was left to pick up the pieces while he prioritized himself. One evening, bolstered by newfound clarity and Lisa's unwavering support, I made a decision I once thought impossible. I called Jacob, who was back at our home, waiting for me to return and sweep the discomfort under the rug like so many times before. "Jacob, we need to talk," I began, my voice steady even as my hands trembled. "I've been thinking a lot, and I've realized I can't keep doing this. I'm filing for divorce." There was silence on the other end of the line. I could almost feel the shift in his world. "Jenna, please," he finally said, his voice laced with desperation. "We can fix this, maybe counseling, something. It's not just about the flight, Jacob," I replied, my tone firm but not unkind. "It's about respect and partnership, things I haven't felt in a long time." The conversation was excruciating, but as I hung up the phone, a wave of peace washed over me. For the first time in years, I felt like I was choosing myself, and my children. At Lisa's house, the days unfolded with a quiet simplicity that I hadn't realized I'd been craving. Morning laughter filled the air as my kids explored the sunlit garden, and evenings were spent with Lisa on the porch, sharing our thoughts under the California stars. As time passed, I found solace in the routines I built with my children, breakfasts filled with giggles, bedtime stories that ended in sleepy cuddles. These moments became the foundation of our new life. Co-parenting with Jacob was challenging, especially at first. Our conversations were stilted, brimming with unspoken regrets and lingering tension. But for the sake of our children, we found a rhythm, a way to communicate that prioritized their well-being. "I think we need consistent routines between both homes," I suggested during one of our discussions. To my surprise, Jacob nodded. "You're right, it's what's best for them." Those small steps toward cooperation gave me hope, not for reconciliation, but for a future where we could both be the parents our children needed. Looking back, the fear of leaving my marriage had loomed large, fear of judgment, of financial instability, of failing my kids. But now, as I stood in the life I had rebuilt, I realized those fears had been the only chains holding me back. My days were far from perfect, but they were mine. Each decision, each smile, each small triumph reminded me of my strength and worth. One night, as I tucked my children into bed, their faces soft with the glow of their nightlight, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. "Good night, my loves," I whispered, lingering in the doorway as a smile spread across my face. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was no longer afraid. Together, we were building a life filled with love, respect, and hope, a family reshaped but unbroken, stronger than ever before.